cardio and bodybuilding, do they mix? Do you think they mix? Because you hear the stigma of, or you see, like, you whip out your phone, you look on Instagram, you're like, oh, gym bro memes, just like, oh, let's skip cardio and let's, oh, we'll skip leg day, and we're gonna, overdose in caffeine and stuff like that. So what's the truth? Is there any truth in that? Does cardio kill gains?
At the end of the day, cardio is a term. For some, it's depending on which side of the fence you sit on. Like I used to think that it did, and I definitely limit how much I do of it because at the end of the day, doing cardio exercise, and let's be particular with cardio, let's say riding a push bike, swimming, but not just swimming, maybe swimming for an hour or riding for an hour, or running for an hour or something like that.
Treadmill in the gym.
Yeah,
And
things like that. So you have a certain amount of total energy expenditure that you have throughout the day. So we've talked about in past episodes where you have your basal metabolic rate.
Yeah.
If you have 2,000 calories to balance your weight even, so if I'm balancing my 90 kilo body weight even, and I go and do a 500 calorie weight session, well, if I want to maintain my 90 kilos, I need to eat 500 calories. Yep. Now, I only have a certain amount of energy to burn or to do. Well, I have more than that, more energy than that, but it depends on how much fatigue that I'll generate. So if you go and do a legs workout and you basically train, if you're under the mindset that I'm going to train until I can't move and I need a set of stairs and a handrail to get down the handrail, well, that's if that's the way that you want to train, then I don't think you're going to be running after your training session.
Yeah.
In saying that, people that do CrossFit, they do stacks of cardio. They're not marathon runners, but they have to be able to because that's part of their sport. When you're talking bodybuilders doing cardio, so I didn't do it initially, it's not really in my repertoire because with my body type, as soon as I start doing cardio exercise, I burn lots of calories.
Yeah.
So it's a calorie in, calorie out thing. It's an equation. Now, other body types might need cardio in their diet or in their repertoire, in their training schedule to balance out that they don't get too heavy, depending on what they're eating. So it depends. When a person's in a gaining phase, if they're trying to gain muscle, gain weight, then that's their primary objective. If you're doing lots of squats, RDLs, and lying leg curls and that sort of stuff, and you don't run for like 6 months to a year, well, your hamstrings are going to get shorter. And as soon as you start running, it's going to hurt. Not only is it going to hurt your lungs, it's going to hurt all those parts that you're not used to using. So when people say it kills your gains, I think that there's a lot of assumed sort of knowledge that's in there because it doesn't necessarily kill your gains, but it burns a certain amount of energy that it's required. Yeah. If it isn't part of what you want to achieve, like I'm training for a mini Ironman. Is it an Ironman? Yeah, I guess it is. It's kind of an Ironman.
Marathon.
Well, sort of. I only have to run 2K though, and I think I got to ride like 8, maybe swim 2. It's a triathlon. It's a mini triathlon. Swim 400 meters. But I don't normally jog. So I did a jog on the treadmill the other day for 5 minutes because if I don't start jogging before the event, well, then I'm going to cripple myself when I decide to do the event. No training. Then I'm probably going to hurt myself. So I have to decide, okay, well, I decided that I was going to start training 1 month out because I'm like, well, it's mainly one of those things that you do to finish, to prove to yourself that you can do it.
Yeah.
I don't plan to come first. I don't really care if I come first or last. I just want to be able to finish it and not walk and not drown. So with that in mind, because I used to be a runner a long time ago, that I can get running fitness back pretty quickly. Yep. I just have to be smart with the way that I phase it into my training so that if I've had a heavy leg session, well, then I probably shouldn't do it after that.
Yeah.
If I'm doing it after a top half session when I've had a bit of recovery, okay. In terms of pace, how hard do I take it? Well, not very hard. Under 6 kilometers an hour. I can probably walk quicker than I can shuffle jog, to be quite honest. But that's where I'm at. I'm only giving myself 3 or 4 weeks to get myself a little bit fitter to do those sort of call them functional sort of movements. Well, not really. Functional is like when people talk about functional exercise, they think things that simulate day-to-day movements. It's kind of another one of those misused terms. Like most people don't pick up sandbags and throw them over their shoulder. You know,
Yeah.
most people
Yeah.
don't get Roman rings and go and flip themselves up and that sort of stuff. That's it's one of
Yeah.
those words the fitness industry's just gone ballistic on, and they've made a whole heap of
Yeah.
gym equipment that fit it. So no, they don't kill your gains. Like if a person wants to be a bodybuilder and be heavy as possible with the biggest muscles, when you put them next to each other, you go and look at the legs of a bodybuilder versus a marathon runner. A marathon runner runs like 20K.
Yeah.
Well, there's no way in hell that a bodybuilder, a competitive bodybuilder, is going to. That's not to say they can't do it or they shouldn't do it, but
Yeah.
it's not that optimal in terms of the recovery for it to be able to do that amount of cardio. Most bodybuilders, when they do decide to do cardio, it might be from the cutting phase because they're trying to increase the amount of energy expenditure.
Yeah.
I've done competitions with no cardio. I've done competitions with cardio. I've done competitions with measuring my step count. I've done competitions with not having any idea of what a step count was because I did it before anyone had a smartphone. So,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, there's a lot of different ways, and it depends on if it's for the purpose of cutting some people's metabolism. If they want to eat a bit more, well, I guess you might, and you don't burn as much. Well, you're going to have to do something to get it off. It's not going
Yeah.
to come off by itself. So it's a way. In fact, do I reduce how much I eat, or do I do more exercise, or do I get rid of the doing more exercise thing because I already do the gym, and I
Yeah.
just eat less? So
Yeah.
it's a scales balancing effect. Some people just want to eat more. All right, then. Well, you're going to be hungry as hell after your cardio workout. So, you may not be. You might love it, but I always find I get a lot fitter from doing a comp prep because I tend to
Yeah.
pay a bit more attention to how much cardio exercise I do because I don't really have a great deal of cardio fitness usually. Don't get me wrong, I can still swim a little bit and I can still go for walks and that sort of stuff. But if you say, hey, run down to the end of the street and back, yeah, it's going to hurt, and it's going to hurt in
Yeah.
probably the wrong places. There's a certain amount of conditioning that's involved in that.
Yeah.
And that if a person decides to make that as part of their plan, that they should, and they're not used to doing it after doing weights for a long period of time, they should actually be gentle with their body and not just do what they remember they used to be able to do. Like
Yeah.
there's no way in hell I could do 5 minute Ks right now in terms of running. And honestly, I don't want to even try. But if that was a goal, then I would take the same as if I want to get back to a 100 kilo bench press, then I would take 7 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, take the time, build it up, give enough progress to get to that as the goal. So,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So to summarize, with the idea of cardio kills gains, cardio might just take burns calories, which calories are used to build gains. So that may have some effect, but it really depends on the person. And
Yeah.
there's just a lot of assuming there from uh, inexperienced people that just go, oh yeah, cardio just kills gains because I've
Yeah. And then the other thing is the fatigue that it gets. If I go for a 10K run, well, where does that fit in terms of the legs, the lower half session exercises? What's more important, going for the 10K run or squatting 100 kilos
yeah,
without
okay,
pain? Because if I go for a 10K run and go the day after or 2 days after, I'm still carrying the fatigue from whatever that run gave me or the swim gave me. Just say I want to do a back workout and you go and crack 2K in the pool, my lats are going to be burning. And I'm not
yeah,
going to be pulling as much I get under the squat rack and I go and plan, oh yeah, I can do 100 kilos for 10 reps. It's gonna feel like more like 120 kilos because I'm carrying the fatigue from the run.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of deciding what's more important for me, or like to give you an example, my focus at the moment is I'm kind of gradually getting my strength and fitness back, but a lot of my energy is dedicated towards windsurfing. And
Yeah.
windsurfing is one of those sports where you use pretty much almost every single muscle in your body to a certain extent because you're more or less in a static hold position for about an hour. So you're in
Yeah.
this position, bent
Yeah.
knees. So everything's going to hurt. So if I carry a lot of fatigue over from training my arms too much, well, I won't be able to hold on. And while I'm in the middle of the ocean, it's probably not the best idea. So weighing up how hard do I push that needle and the fatigue that I carry over for when I go windsurfing, well, that means that I have to proportionally lift less in the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that the wrong idea? Well, it's a supply and demand thing. I
Yeah.
know that I can't do 130 kilo RDL if I'm going to windsurf 4 times a week because my hammies are going to be so tight. So what
Yeah.
I do, I take a percentage of weight off. Okay, that needle the last 7 weeks was about a 110, where I'd normally be able to do a 130. So I'm like, I have to be okay with that those numbers. Okay, all right, that's all right. Because it'll get cold, it'll get that cold eventually that I won't be able to windsurf anyway. I won't want to. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll concentrate more on my gym stuff. So
Yeah. 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 Fair
so
enough.
yeah,
But
it's the progression rate for my gym stuff is a bit slower at the moment because I'm just being a bit mindful that I don't carry the fatigue over.
yeah.
And that's no different for anyone else as well. If you don't want to sustain an injury, you have to keep those things in mind.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. That opens up my eyes to a whole new thing. Crazy. But
Cool.
yeah,